folks, we'll get underway. Thank you so very much. This is the AVIXA Women's Council Forum, Pushing Boundaries, Strategies for Success. I would like to begin, of course, by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land upon which we are meeting here today. That is the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and forward my respects on your behalf to their elders, past, present, and those still to come. And, of course, acknowledge any First Nations people who are joining us here for our Tech Talks today. Now, our breakfast, thanks to Diversified, that's the integrator, and Logitech, thanks to them. But first, let's dive into a forward-thinking discussion designed to empower women in the AV industry with strategies for achieving success and driving future innovation. This session brings together industry leaders to share actionable insights and guidance on navigating and thriving in this dynamic field. To discuss this further and to introduce the panel, would you please welcome from ICC Sydney, Tony McAllister.
Good morning. Thank you. This is so great to see such a big crowd. Thank you so much for coming out so early, especially if any of you enjoyed some afters last night. So thank you for being here, and a really warm welcome, of course, to the AVIXA Women's Council. This is, their session, but it is for everybody. So thank you for being here. I have spent the last 25 years in the AV industry, and I am very happy and proud to say that I have built a successful AV career that is also really enjoyable. And I am the Senior Manager for AV Business Development here at ICC Sydney, but also the founder of Women in AV Australia. So this is a subject matter that is very near and dear to my heart and something I'm very passionate about. Diversity is something that is really important, but so is inclusion, and creating a comfortable and welcoming environment for everybody, for women and for people of all walks of life to thrive in. So while we are not just talking about diversity today, because although we acknowledge that there are absolutely some issues and challenges still to deal with in our industry, today's panel is very much a positive, solutions-focused strategies for personal growth. That's what we're here to talk about today. It's about practical steps that can help bring about real change to yourself personally and to the industry. It will help us to push boundaries and create opportunities, not just for yourself, but for others as well. And I'm really, really excited to introduce our wonderful panel of industry experts from across the industry. We have a wealth of knowledge and expertise here this morning, and I'd like you to make everybody welcome. I will kick off with Sarah Joyce, the Chief Global Officer at AVIXA, with more than 25 years experience in the industry. She brings a global perspective on how innovation and leadership are shaping our industry. And she's come all the way from the UK, so please give her a very, very big warm welcome. Thank you, Sarah. And Laura Connaughton from Diversified, Senior Account Manager, who brings 13 years of incredible experience across projects, sales and system design. She brings to the panel a perspective of how building relationships and technical insights are key strategies for success in AV. So welcome, Laura. Kate Kelly, the Industry Development Manager at the Victorian Association of Performing Arts Centres. She's got a background in theatre consulting and venue design, and she's now focused on the very important task of workforce development and creating pathways for the next generation. Welcome, Kate, and so great to be on a panel with you again. And last but definitely not least, we have Cameron Douglas, the Chief Executive of Video Pro, a 45-year-old AV company that is very successful with operations across integration, retail and e-commerce. Having been with the company for the past 20 years, he brings a leadership perspective on how the industry is evolving and a passion for growing and sustaining the AV's future workforce. Welcome, Cameron. So thank you all for being here. Now's your opportunity to be able to say something. I've talked about why a session like this today is really important, but I'd like to hear from you about why you think a session like today about growing and creating opportunities to succeed is so important. And Sarah, we're going to kick off with you because you actually were part of the inaugural Women of Infocom Network Breakfast in Europe back in 2015. I think that's right.
Thank you, Tony. Yes. So at AVIXA, there's been a Women's Council since about sort of 2013, I think it started, and was formalised in 2014. And I was on the Infocom board, as it was then, and went to the session in Orlando and thought that it was fantastic, awesome, wonderful, amazing. Let's do this in Europe. So I said, could we do this at ISE? That would be fantastic. And as I know now, being an employee of AVIXA, that if you put your hand up for something, they say, wonderful, thank you, there you go. And so I think for me, why are these important? This is a very positive session, but I will give a personal example that I wasn't really understanding. I've been a woman in the industry for many, many times. I was formerly a managing director of a systems integration business. And I had an experience where I was asked sort of an unpleasant question. Anyway, let's leave it there. And I thought, why do we need women's groups? Come on, goodness me, we're all equal. There's equity. Come on. And then had an experience and thought, okay, yeah, that's why we do still. Now, I don't say that from a negative perspective, because we're all about, this is about a future and forward and positivity. But I think it's about that opportunity that you have, and with the men here as well and the women in the audience, to recognize that there's a place that you can feel trusted, feel that you can be either vulnerable, and that's for men as well. This is about how you find a space to look at within your organizations and yourselves personally, where are there opportunities for us to bring greater diversity within our industry or representation, and how do I ensure that I am able to do that as a business leader and also as an individual. We all have a first. There's always a first time that you're setting up either a session, a new meeting, whatever it might be, and everybody has crisis of confidence. Everybody has a little bit of a wobble. And it's about just knowing that you've got those spaces and those places that you can come together and look at practical examples and ways of being able to, stretch ourselves, or ways of being able to open up our businesses for broader talent. We all have a workforce development challenge. We work very particularly in colleges and schools to make sure that, young girls do know they are studying STEM. They're not being put off from that at a young age, and that they know there are opportunities in a really vibrant industry to have careers that they might at 12 and 13 just don't know are available. So, there's practical ways of how we can work in schools and colleges as businesses and individuals, and those opportunities that we get in a group like this to be able to, talk with a wider community of next steps, what we can do, and also be seen as somebody sitting up on a stage, not necessarily feeling super comfortable. But if she can do it, then I can do it too. We can't be what we can't see.
Thank you. And we'll delve a lot more into some of what Sarah's touched on there. Laura, would you like to add anything about why sessions like today are so important?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for myself, obviously just coming in here, this is my first time on a panel. So it's like you say, Sarah, it's seeing I think women in the room and just celebrating that and being able to leverage one another. There are obviously women in this space that have 25 years experience, and being able to talk with yourselves and just getting your perspective on the industry as well is, I feel, very powerful. To be able to discuss experiences is a really important thing, and also just learning from one another, listening to stories and I suppose exchanging what your experience was and how to maybe approach things differently in the future, I think is, it's a really great thing. And these sessions are what it's all about. It's coming together and getting to know different women in the industry. It's fantastic.
Well, thank you. And thank you for stepping up today. We really appreciate it. And I think you're going to do wonderfully. So thanks, Laura. Kate, have you got any thoughts?
I'll try and keep it brief. I think one of my favorite things about conversations like this is that women can't do this by themselves. It's everyone's right and responsibility to lift people up in industry, not just women. There's lots of underrepresented communities in this space. And I think without having the conversation and saying, hey, did you know that this is something I think about when I come to an event like this, is really important. Because I've had colleagues in the past who go, oh, I didn't even think that was something. And I'm like, where's the accommodation? Where am I staying? What am I doing? Who's in the room that knows I'm there? So I think that's really important. The other thing about this is it wouldn't be without the Women's Council that I would actually be sitting on stage today for the 4th year in a row, having conversations like this and actually being a voice within industry. I think that's really fantastic. And something that came up the other day that I think's wonderful is borrowing someone else's confidence to get you on stage, to do that meeting, to host an event. And I can definitely thank Sarah and Sue for that, especially. It was like, no, you've got this, it'll be fine. And it was. And I think once you've done something once, it gives you the opportunity to do it more and to grow. So yeah, thanks for all being here.
Perfect. And you definitely have this, Kate. Cameron, we'd love to hear your perspective as well.
I think that it's really important to focus in on the employee journey, the experience of women, how they come in, how they promote, etc. And I think that a lot of the panel is going to be based around that conversation today. We also need to look at it from a staffing perspective. We just do not have enough staff in the AV industry. And if you don't build businesses that can attract women, well, you've just dropped 50% of the workforce that can come in and work for you, and there's a lot of hyper-fragmentation in the AV industry, particularly in AV integrators, and it's a structural challenge that we get stuck in this feast or famine of projects. And so we have a lot of staff poaching between all of the sort of major integrators. None of those things help build new staff and help build new team members and new trainees. But if we can really bring our ratios of women up in this industry, it will actually solve a lot of those problems. So there's a really important, Charlie Munger's quote, show me the incentive and I'll show you the behavior. There's a really important incentive for us to do the best thing by all of the women in our industry, that they go out and tell more of their friends and we attract more people in, and in turn the industry grows.
Yeah, well, there's definitely a conversation there around not just attraction, but retention as well. It's really important. And that's where it comes back to diversity and inclusion. So let's dive into this and let's look at some practical strategies for career growth and skill development. So we all know that technical knowledge and expertise is really key. It's powerful. It allows us not just to know what we're doing, but it also gives us the confidence to know that we are doing it well. So we'd love to hear some insights from the panel about how women and everyone can deepen their technical knowledge and expertise. Laura, I might throw this one over to you first.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the beginning would be getting to know and understanding the tech is obviously a key point. We all use so many suppliers and manufacturers, and a lot of these places have online courses, in-person courses where you can obtain certifications. And that really, again, it's having that knowledge is so powerful, because you can, when you walk into a room, just by having that, it gives you that confidence to say, right, I know what I have, and let's discuss what the client needs. I also think utilizing the people around you. There's obviously people in these spaces that have so much experience, and if you can leverage what they have, but also support those around you who maybe need that. So, listen, learn, and then obviously support and uplift others around you. That's a huge, I feel, beneficial to you as to develop your career. Also, just even diving into other departments within your organization. I work in sales, but throwing yourself into the engineering department, shadowing an engineer, looking at system designs, getting that real understanding of all the solutions that you have to offer, and then obviously taking that and bringing it to the clients around you. It really is just a case of knowing more. I think to be able to continue to learn is key, and that inevitably will lead you I suppose, into a more leadership role, because you've obviously got that knowledge that you can obviously offload then to others around you, which is
it comes back to that support part.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But broadening your skills across the industry, not sort of focusing in.
No, that's it. You know, don't just hone in on, say, if you work in the sales team, don't just hone in on that. Really utilize the whole organization around you. Get to know what other people do in different departments, and work together, collaborate amongst yourselves, because ultimately that's going to be beneficial for the company as well, and yourself.
And Sarah, with AVIXA, they've got a real focus on education and certification. What strategies can you recommend for others to deepen their technical?
Absolutely. I would echo everything you've said as well. Obviously, AVIXA's got the CTS certification, which, interestingly, I've got a lot of women that I know within the industry who are front and center at leading getting that program. The AVIXA Women's Council in India is all about leading, getting women through taking their CTS, no matter what roles you have within an organization. And the first woman in India who got her CTS then paid it forward by doing Saturday morning groups with 15, 20 women to study that. So I think whenever I'm asked, I came in through marketing, I came in through sales, I did operations, I did service within the industry. But what got me into then really doing true leadership was exactly everything that you did. So having a broad company and product knowledge, but also the technical knowledge, but then also the areas of deep financial knowledge. And that's for everybody. If you've come in through life through an engineering degree or whatever it might be, add on the financial understanding. We all do budgets. If you're in marketing, if you're in sales, you earn a budget. But there's a big shift from actually understanding a business, a company budget. So you don't have to study an accountancy degree, but have that ability to be able to look at a company from a sort of a total perspective. That's the key thing for anyone that really takes you into that ability of being able to move from a operations director, sales director, marketing director into a managing director leadership role. So do everything that you talked about and that you've been doing, Laura, around the broadest understanding. Network with all of your manufacturing, your vendor partners, network at every opportunity to be able to study, and with other integrators as well. We are a small pool. Find out what's happening, do all of that, put yourself forward. And those are the real steps.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no secret to it, really, is there? Yeah. Kate, for you, with the focus on workforce development, are there insights that you can add here in terms of deepening that technical knowledge?
Yes, I think something I've spent a lot of time focusing on is the future workforce. So where are we going to find the next generations of people? I've spent a lot of time in schools, particularly with young girls, working with them and encourage them into these technical fields, teaching them my background's in theatre, so teaching them to be lighting programmers, audio ops, how to run cable, how to rig things, and particularly in an environment like in a girls' school, for example, there's no one there saying you can't do that. Women are filling every role in every show, every production. They're the top in science, in engineering. So I think that's something that's really fantastic in this space. And I think the more people, realize, if you break the barrier of going, that's not a space for me, and actually realize you've got every right to be in that space in addition to someone else, then I think that confidence and leverage, and like you say, if you can't see it, you can't be it. I think that's a really fantastic thing. And the other thing I'd add just on the STEM question is making it STEAM and putting that art and creativity back in there, because that kind of outlet gives people fantastic skills in collaboration, in communication, in time management, people skills. And I think that can't be undervalued either.
Yeah, absolutely. And Cameron, to you, as someone who is leading a successful and growing AV company, is there something that you can add to insights for people to deepen their technical knowledge and skills?
I think the technical knowledge and skills has been really well addressed, and I think that by our panel, not by the industry generally. But I think something to consider is that the AV industry is quite hard. Like it is a hard industry, and something that helps you get through hard things is the relationships and the connections. I think one of the great gifts of the AV industry is that if you've been in it for 20 years, coming to Integrate feels like coming to a high school reunion. Like you really do know everybody, and it's quite nice that, not all industries are like that. But the reason I say that is because we build these relationships, we create these connections, and you want to try and find people that support you and connections out there in the industry, whether they are in your company or not in your company, that you can become so connected to that they will give you honest feedback that helps you build your resilience and helps you become a stronger and better person. The deeper the relationship you have with someone, the more able you are to go into high conflict situations. So it's really valuable for all of us inside this wonderful industry that we have all these relationships, and you can say, oh man, I really stuffed that up. I don't know what to do here. What do you reckon? And someone's going to be like, yeah, you did. You stuffed it up. As opposed to, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Because that's how we grow. We grow by our connections giving us honest feedback that sometimes hurts. But if the connection's strong, it's delivered in a safe way, as opposed to, not having a strong connection and us not being comfortable or willing to take that advice.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And it brings us to a conversation that we wanted to have around building those connections and that network. And that's really important across all industries, but in particular in our industry, it is a very close industry. We do all work together very closely. It's really important, to our career growth and to our leadership opportunities to build that influence and those networks around us. Kate, did you want to add to this in terms of your experience? And I know you've had some personal experience here in looking for mentors and people that can help you build that.
Yeah, absolutely. With VAPAC, we host a number of conferences every year. And one in particular that I think would resonate in this room is the Tech Managers Network Conference. So this is where the venue technicians from all across Victoria and Tasmania come together and talk. And the fantastic thing about it is that in most organisations, they're the only person in that role and they don't have someone to go to. But when they meet with the network, suddenly you realise 50% of you are having the same problem. And then it becomes an issue that you can resolve together or make strategies for. So I think that's something fantastic about having networks. I think with the Women's Council, with AVIXA, it's been incredibly valuable for me over the last 5 or 6 years. I've had people to go to and say, hey, this happened. I'm not sure where to go or what to do next, how to mitigate it next time. And being able to speak to people who have had a lot more experience than me is really, really valuable. And it's also great when it's outside of your organisation sometimes too. You need a fresh perspective. The other one that I think is really great is mentorships. I was a part of one with Women in Design and Construction a few years ago. It was only a 6-month program, but I still meet with the woman I was paired with till this day. And she's in a different space. She's in architecture, but it's fantastic to talk and connect. And I think the more people you have, you can reach out to, like you say, in a really honest way, the better we're all going to be able to deal with difficult conversations or difficult situations and then grow and improve as a result.
Absolutely. And there are opportunities out there like the AVIXA Women's Council, like Women in AV Australia, but there's also networks and opportunities within your own organisations for those mentorship opportunities. And if there's not, you can always put your hand up and ask for it as well, because it's something that will help you to grow that influence and the confidence as well, which I think is really important. Laura, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel, and I did touch on this, when you're working as a collective team, when you immerse yourself into the operations team, into the engineering team, when you collaborate together, that can really broaden your, I suppose, experience within the company. And again, like you said, internal initiatives. So Diversified have diversified learning. So there are so many different certifications that we offer, from AVIXA certifications to upskilling your Microsoft skills, We have Leadership Launchpad, where you can obtain courses in communication, engagement, conflict management, all those kind of things, particularly if you are looking to get into that leadership role. Those are really valuable courses to obviously take. And again, it's, talking to people within your organization, outside of your organization as well, and really just utilizing those people around you who have that experience.
Sarah?
Yes, I mean, beautiful points to build on. I think certainly if there isn't any mentorship program within your organization, hold your hand up and say, is this something that we could put in place? They've been hugely beneficial to me, being a mentee and a mentor. And I think, there's obviously a AVIXA Women's Council here. Sue is here. She leads it. Kate, there's others within the group. Reach out if there's something you'd like to get involved with here. But I think also, Cameron, I loved your point. We are a people industry. And, I fell into it 28 years ago, and I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. And but the networks and the people that I've met also through clients, through competitors, through vendors, I've got friends for life that I've known over that period of time. And they are people that you are able to, have that conversation with, I really messed up there, or, whatever it might be. But there's also, AVIXA's also got, it has a consultants council, it has a systems integrators council. It has a manufacturers council. These are all groups that are set up, within the market segments to have those types of conversations. Yes, of course, people are competitors, but at the end of the day, we're all looking for solutions for customers. We're either looking for solutions that are, product-led, software-led, that are delivering what customers need and look for. And within those safe space environments, it's really important to be able to come together as groups, really to sort of push and drive the industry forward, because our customers, we all know this, are more and more and more sophisticated. They're the ones that are educating us a lot of the time in some areas. And so this is where you can find the examples of, hey, this came up on this project, or I didn't know about this, or, I'm getting this, whatever it might be. So there are, mentoring groups within your organization. External ones that might be market focused for you are fantastic. And other groups that such as the councils or committees that you could get involved with, that would fit a need in terms of within a market space that you're looking at.
And I think mentorship doesn't have to be so structured either. It doesn't need to be an official program. It could just be a matter of looking to someone else that you either work with, or a client, or someone across a different industry that you admire, or feel that it could add something to your own personal growth and journey. That if you approach them, I'm sure so many people here are willing to share their knowledge and their experience, and that will help you build your influence. So speaking about building that influence, I really feel that visibility is key, and quite often we are our worst own enemies in putting ourselves forward, whether it be speaking on a panel, or being our own cheerleaders and promoting the wins that we've had or what we do. And in order to build that growth and that influence, we need to be able to feel comfortable sharing that. I know it's something that with Women in AV Australia, I've tried to do in terms of providing an opportunity on social media to promote women's journey throughout their career, what they love about it. But so often I do get, and this will bundle two questions into one about visibility, but the imposter syndrome thing as well. Why me? Why would I put my hand up? Why I don't have anything to say? So there's the two parts in that. There's the visibility, there's that putting your hand up and saying I'm worth it, but also that imposter syndrome of do I have something worthy to add? Is there anyone that wants to speak to this in particular? Go for it, Kate.
Yeah, this is me combating imposter syndrome right now.
Awesome. I love it.
I think sometimes I ask myself, why not me? If someone's approached you to present, to run a meeting, hopefully they're not throwing you under the bus. But generally, I don't think there's more to gain than there is to lose by putting your hand up or saying yes to an opportunity, because I think we lose a lot more by going, oh no, I'm not going to do that. I know that my conversations have improved since being on panels here. There's more visibility, and I don't know if anyone else has walked around the floor at the moment. There's not very many women in the room. So I think anything you can do to leverage your own personal brand is really valuable. It is something I am getting mentored in to work out how that fits together and being authentic in it, because I don't want to be exactly like someone else in this space. And if I can't do it authentically in a way that I'm comfortable with, then it's just not going to serve me long term. And I think that's something else that in this space, it's something to think about who you are and how you're doing it, so that you can really back yourself. Because if you feel uncomfortable, sometimes we've got to sit with that uncomfortable feeling and go, no, I'm going to push through this and it'll be all right. But also giving yourself the best, using all your resources to give yourself the best chance to be successful as well.
Absolutely. All I'd like to add is that imposter syndrome, everybody has it. It's not just a female trait. So, let's also own and recognize and accept that we all have it. Everyone has self-limiting beliefs. Men have self-limiting beliefs, everybody. Let's not just say it's, we're the ones with it. There are studies that do show that women tend to limit themselves a little bit more than men do. A man will push forward and push themselves through that a bit more than women. But let's not just make it a female trait. And the whole point of having groups and sessions like this with, thank you, so many men in the audience as well, is to kind of go, we all get it. we all have it. This is a lived experience. Know that there's a safe space that we can talk about it and be our authentic selves. Because to your point, Kate, the older I get in life, the more I recognize that I can't be anything other than who I am. The days of my 20s and 30s feeling that I needed to be an X or a certain corporate suit or a this or whatever it might be, it's not sustainable. And society, thank goodness, has shifted so much more as well. So just, to the men in the room, please, we know we all have it. We're not sitting here saying it's just an us thing. And, let's all in life try and be a little bit more, inclusive and kind to ourselves, and recognizing it and having a safe space to be able to go, hey, thank you.
Can I just double down on Kate's point too? The why not me is a really great way to think about it. Just to share a little story, I've asked someone to mentor me before. And I've been asked, and when I've asked it, I basically, I felt like I was in high school and I was asking a girl out. I was like, will you be my mentor? And he's like, okay. And he's a very good friend of mine now. He was a board member of Deloitte. I learned a tremendous amount from him, but nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? And why can't you go up to someone that maybe, like you said, Tony, doesn't belong to one of these groups or anything, and you're like, that person's really smart. I could learn a lot from them. And I've got something to give as well, because the why not me thing is the I've got something to give as well, because a mentoring relationship is always a two-way street.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it is why not me? And it is that opportunity to put yourself out there, so that when we talk about you can't be what you can't see, you are, paving a path for the next generation and for other people to say, okay, I can do that as well, and give it a go. So let's talk about leadership. And leadership means different things in different contexts, but today in particular we're talking about more personal leadership. It's not necessarily a promotion or a management role. It's personal leadership. It's about having the confidence and creating impact in your own way. What approaches have you found, Laura, I might throw to you here, about building confidence to step into a leadership position, whether it be a role or stepping into your own leadership?
Yeah, so I think from my perspective, I would lead basically on how I would expect. I would expect people to do as I would. So if you have an expectation of somebody, you've got to be able to obviously show that you're doing it as well. And that's a really important factor. Lead by example. It's also a case of supporting, uplifting those around you. That is a really fundamental factor. If you see somebody that is struggling a little bit, it's like you said, Kate, lend that confidence, throw yourself in, ask what it is that they need from you, and they may be able to offer you something as well. It's, it's like you said, Cameron, I think you can learn as much from somebody as somebody else can learn from you. And it's being able to see what they have, what they can offer, and what you can offer them. And for me, as I've grown through my career, I started out really not knowing the AV industry at all. And I threw myself into these things, but I also had fantastic people around me who really spent time with me and, mentored my career into a more senior role. And for me, seeing anybody coming into the industry, I would want to lend that to them as well. I would want to tell them, you don't have to know everything, and it's okay not to know everything. You will learn that over time, and just honing in on what their interests are and creating an environment for them where they can excel in that as well. I feel like that's a really important factor. Being able to show vulnerability in the fact that you don't know everything is, I think, to be able to go to somebody within your organization and say, look, I actually don't know. Can you help me? Is a really important thing to be able to do. Yes, absolutely. But also for that person to be accepting of it and to say, okay, well, right, let's work through this together. And I feel like from my perspective, I would be more than willing and hope that anybody within my organization, if they were having a hard time, come to me, ask me, what do you think we should do here? And come up with the solution as to how to approach it.
It's that support network, isn't it? And I know that you brought your support and cheer squad here with you today as well. So well done on that.
Thank you very much.
And Cameron, I'd like to address this to you as well, because I know that Video Pro has achieved a 40% female executive leadership team. So hats off to you for that, because that is great. And it does show what's possible when women are supported to grow. But what are your key strategies, not just for attracting diverse talent, but also creating an inclusive culture that retains and empowers them?
The role models thing is so important. I mean, it can't really be said enough. I think that you can't be what you can't see has been said so much that it starts to just become a catch cry, but it's very real. And, for young women coming in or other women who are in the industry, if they look up inside a company and all they see is men, it's hard for them to see the pathway. And one of my female mentors that I've had in the past, she said, it's not that men don't have a hard pathway to their successful career. It's just that pathway has been walked many times before. And, particularly in the AV industry, with women walking that pathway, they're kind of still bashing through the trees and creating the pathway as it is. And so it's really important that there's people that they can talk to in a relatable sense. And it's not an attack on men. It's not to say that men can't have these conversations or that there's not plenty of men who think a certain way and can be supporters. It's just that sometimes a woman's going to want to talk to a woman. And if there's not another woman there, then it makes it a harder conversation for them to have. So it does, it does work. It does work in attracting and retaining. So we've got 20% women in our company. And 40% ELT. I would say that 20% is probably pretty high on the industry numbers, but we haven't gotten there necessarily by just going out and trying to target women, because I think that's the wrong way to do it. And I've done that in the past, and I've done it wrong, 5 or 6 years ago. Now it's about creating an environment that attracts and supports women as they come in. And I want to draw another critical point. You have your head office culture, right? Like you have your HQ culture that's great, and suppliers are coming in and they're bringing you sugar every day of the week and stuff like that. And then you have like subcultures, right? So for us, our head office culture is Brisbane. Our subculture is in a retail store or in Sydney's office. And then we have other people's cultures. We have site cultures, and a site culture can be awful. Like a construction, we are heavily exposed to the construction industry. And we also do a lot of remote work. Like the AV industry, particularly in Queensland, having people out in remote sites, it's just part of the job. And so you need those connections back to head office, and you need to recognize the additional difficulty inside subcultures that they might be running their own version of what you think your head office culture is as well, and how that supports women.
Yeah, and that's difficult, if not impossible, to control. But if they know that they're getting supported from head office, they've got that support network and know that, yeah, they've got that. Let's talk about defining success, because success means different things to different people. We've talked a lot about growth and skills and leadership, but we're talking about how that leads you down the path to success. So let's take a step back and talk about what success looks like to you personally. It might not be a title or a promotion. How do you define it for yourself, Sarah? I think success... So it sounds really cliched, but I'm going to look at this room and say this is success for me, because I am delighted we have so many people in the room. Whether it was 3-line whip from organizations that you're going to be here, I don't care. And that is success for me, because it's about the fact that everybody's got up early before the show floor and has wanted to come and be in a room for a session that you might have thought, why? But you're here, so I'm over the moon. That's success. Take a win.
Agree. Yeah, agree. Laura, for you?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, look, I'm going to probably replicate what you've just said, Sarah, that for me, it's sitting up here, being given this opportunity is huge. I think I was saying this to you earlier, Tony. I don't think I would have put my hand up for this, but, when somebody comes and approaches you, a wonderful woman within our organization came to me and, said, will you do this? And it really, again, pushed me outside of my comfort zone. But I said, yes, I will do it. And that to me is, it's just another thing now in my career that I'm pretty proud of. So that to me is...
And so you should be. It's a great success. I think they've all been very successful up here today, don't we think? This brings us to some time for some questions from the audience. We've been up here having a bit of a chat and talking about these growth opportunities, new skills, but there might have been things that we haven't touched on that you were hoping to hear about today. So here's your opportunity to ask a question. I can see one already.
Howdy, my name's Jade and I'm the CIO at the National Gallery of Australia. So it's fabulous to see this session, and I've been a woman in IT, so I've been doing that kind of thing. And Integrate was my first year last year, and I was kind of shocked when I walked in the room and I went, oh, we're doing okay in IT, because I looked like the women numbers in AV was a lot less. So it's great to see this. But when I walked around last year, I found a woman on one of the desks and I said, nobody's talking to me. Like, I go and stand. So it was Samantha from Combox. And she said, come with me. And she took me to all these blokes and said, you will talk to Jade. You will talk to Jade. Guess what? I've got a bucket full of money that I'm going to spend. And I'm not going to buy from people who don't talk to me. So I don't come here because I want to have a champagne on Sydney Harbour. I come here because I have a solution I need to solve and I need to buy something. But I do see the unconscious bias on the guys on the booths. So I wonder, what can we do to help men know that we're not that scary, but we also probably hold the purse strings to buy the car, buy the house, and buy the AV at work?
Yeah, it's a good question, because it is at times an unconscious bias, and other times maybe potentially more damaging, it's conscious. But how can we maybe tackle the unconscious bias? It's a tough one, and I don't think we can unpack it in about the 5 minutes that we have left, but
I was going to say, I start asking questions and then people's perception changes really quickly when they realize, like, I used to be a theatre consultant. I was speccing millions of dollars every year of product. And once people realize that, they start to talk to you differently. They want to have meetings. They're approaching you, not you're approaching them. So I think sometimes it is about, well, no one wants to talk to me, but I'm going to make sure someone does, and they know what I'm talking about. I have technical skills in some systems more than anyone else in the room. And it's someone else's problem if they don't appreciate that and understand that. And I've been frustrated in the past by experiences where I've been underestimated. And I think sometimes you've unfortunately got to do the hard work in making yourself known. That's why I also think allies are fantastic. When you've got someone in one company, like you say, who takes you to someone else, I think that's that lending of confidence, lending of experience, lending of someone validating what you do and you not having to do that all the time. So I think that's where my male colleagues in the past have been so, so valuable. Like being in the meeting and saying, I've delivered a whole meeting, but then someone asks my colleague the question, but I've done the design and I'm running the project, and they go, what do you think, Kate? Because someone in the room has thought they had the answers and they don't. They're there actually to take my notes for a change. So I think it's about changing, like in little steps, that action. And I think the more people are aware that it happens, the more we're all going to change how we approach it.
And I don't think it's a women's problem to solve either. And I certainly don't think that's what you were meaning by the question. And I think if you've done all the hard work that we were talking about in the beginning by building that technical knowledge, knowing and feeling confident that you have the answers and building that influence and network and having those allies around you, that's individually what you can do. As an industry, I think we all have work to do. And we all acknowledge that. Does anyone have another question? Oh, okay. Well, let's go.
Hi, thank you very much for hosting this today. My background is in AV, but I've moved into acoustics. And touching on what you said about getting the skills, I think getting the cushy jobs is also, if you're the plant operator or truck driver, then people start talking to you a little bit more. So that would be a hot tip there for me. But my question kind of stems out of, is there a place that we can nominate or acknowledge these mentors that have been inclusive? Having been someone where I was the only woman around and have had good male role models, I'm just wondering if there's currently a place where we can acknowledge those people and get that connection rolling.
I'm sure that there are opportunities within the AVIXA Women's Council and even with Women in AV. I know that, we've tried to put it out for a mentorship group before as well. It can be difficult. People are, like you say, there are some great mentors out there, but, they can only do so much for so many people. Does anyone on the panel have any ideas about other structured pathways that we can create to help other women and people find those opportunities?
Goodness, there is the AVIXA Women's Council. There is National Women in Construction Industry as well. That may open a few more doors in terms of, I suppose, talking to different people within different industries. That could be a really valuable partnership that you could get involved in. They do luncheons every year, and there's women from architecture, AV. It's, there are so many wonderful people that you could definitely get to know and maybe find that path of who to talk to, who's the right person to talk to in terms of mentoring or even putting those people forward that you may have dealt with previously.
Yeah, visibility. It comes back to visibility, doesn't it? And we don't probably have enough of that at the moment. So something I think as an industry we could continue to address.
So it could be a practical thing that, under the Women's Council here, that we could start pooling, people who want to be mentors and mentees.
Absolutely. So thank you for your question. At the back.
It's a two-part question. The first one is, how many CEOs of AV companies in Australia are female? Does anyone know?
That own the business or don't own the business would probably be one of them, but I would say in integrator land, it's probably close to zero. And maybe in production, it's a bit high. In broadcast and production, it's probably higher.
Stacey, is that you? Yeah, we definitely have one in the room then.
I'm one of three.
There you go, three.
I
There you
was
go.
one.
Oh, there you go. They're the ones
now.
in the room.
I've got a few more. I've spent years trying to find a thing. I
think you'll find
Catch up, have a coffee.
the different groups in the value chain have different gender makeups as well. Like integration is very male dominant. In supplier and manufacturer land, it changes a bit. You get a much better ratio usually.
Yeah, and my next problem is I think I'm one of even less that actually came up through the ranks of AV. We don't rise. What are we going to do about that? Because I have networks. There's a TAFE teacher for 10 years. I'm overqualified. I have a law degree. I went sideways. I run an events company now. We actually run our own events because when people won't employ you, you employ yourself. So I'm asking, we have everything you just said we have. That's absolutely true. What are we actually going to change?
Appreciate your point, Stacey. I think the panel isn't here today necessarily to solve all the problems of the world, and I think that we are trying to tackle things bit by bit. Kate, did you want to add something?
I just wanted to say, I think that the change in dynamic in this room today from previous years is a huge step forward. I think, and I've said it before and we'll say it again, women can't solve this on their own. We need everyone in the industry to be aware and to lift each other up. It's not just about women. It's about culturally and linguistically diverse other minorities who are in this industry who have so much value to add that, like you say, we're missing 50% of the population if we're not considering women as part of our teams, but it goes beyond that. And we're only better, our companies are better for diversity. And not just because we're ticking a box, but because it changes our perspective. So we get better ideas, we get better solutions, we get more backgrounds and their experience in the room. So I think that's a really big part of it. And if everyone here brings one other person next year, we'll need a bigger theatre, and that would be amazing. So if I can invite everyone back next year, please put this on your list. It happens every year on the Thursday morning. It's really important that this conversation doesn't just stop when the panel finishes today. And if anyone wants to come and speak to the panelists, to Sue, any of the AVIXA team about how they can engage and improve and, support the industry as a whole, I think that's really, really important. And hopefully next year we've got new stats that we can talk to.
Can I say something controversial? I've just waited this whole time.
I thought that was a really nice way to end it, Cameron. Are you sure?
8 seconds.
I know how long we have left.
If you're a young woman and you're climbing up the ranks in AV integration, you will get pulled into client side. You will get job offers in the government and the universities, etc. It will happen. And you need to ask yourself the question, is this going to keep me in the AV industry, or will it change? It will divert my career path, because once you get into an end user with government or uni, what I've seen is they usually then promote out of the AV industry and then we lose them. And so it's an interesting pathway to think about your career as you're making decisions. This might be good now. Is this going to help me in 2 years' time, in 3 years' time? Because we do have a lot of different pathways.
And that comes back to retention again. So I've got Tim, who's about ready to kick us off the stage. And I can understand that because there's another amazing panel coming up after. So I do want to thank you all for coming out so early this morning and supporting us. I want to thank the panelists for sharing their insights and being so vulnerable and authentic with their responses. I don't think we are here to solve all of the problems, but I hope that you're able to take some practical steps and strategies away with you today, because every action that you take not only advances your own career, but it will help to make a small step to helping to improve and accelerate our industry. So thank you for being here today.